Hello, my name's Janine Browne. I'm delivering to you a 10-minute presentation introducing a Year 10 class to an anthology text of my choice. I've chosen War Photographer for this activity because it's so tightly structured and it's got all its emotional layering. I think it's very accessible to all abilities, but also has got a really deep promise of a deep analysis to stretch our higher end learners. Lots of discussion, lots of personal reflection, which could be involved. So my first choice of task is just to get the students thinking about the content. So I've got 2 photographs of war here. One from Don McCullen and some of his Vietnam photography, which we can refer to later in the context of the lesson. And one from the Ukrainian war, something a little bit more relatable for them, potentially. Just gives them a bit of contrast of the black and white imagery as well. Then I would like to take that further, perhaps thinking about, do we turn away from scenes like this too quickly? And what is the purpose of these photographs? What do we do? So from there, this is my hook. Then we've been having a look at a bit of context, some close reading and a bit of reflection. Introducing the objectives. By the end of this session, I would like to be able to understand and to begin writing about Caroline Duffy's choice of language. So here's the poem. Be reading the poem aloud for the students. I think that helps make it more accessible as well. I do consider myself quite an expressive reader, so that's really important. So I'm just going to, I would read the whole thing. I'm just going to model it to you by using 1 or 2 stanzas. War Photographer, Caroline Duffy. In his dark room, he's finally alone with spools of suffering set out in ordered rows. The only light is red and softly glows, as though this were a church, and he a priest preparing to intone a mass. Belfast, Beirut, Phnom Penh, all flesh is grass. He has a job to do. Solutions slop in trays beneath his hands, which did not tremble then, though seem to now. Rural England, home again to ordinary pain which simple weather can dispel, to fields which don't explode beneath the feet of running children in a nightmare heat. So this is obviously a very powerful poem. We'd focus on how it looks at the emotional cost of war, not just for soldiers, not for civilians, but for those people, these war photographers that have to go out and capture it, and how Caroline Duffy was a personal friend, had her experience with him in the 1970s. And we talk about how this was a big inspiration for her, like the fascination that she had. Address the student misconception, first of all, head on. Often they think that the speaker is the poet. So just making sure that distinction is made from very, very early on within the lesson will help. A little bit of background about Caroline Duffy that we discuss, and just to try and help that link us to our understanding of the poem. And then moving on to some more focused language analysis. So on this slide, I've got some vocabulary to help those with AAL or just those that need a little bit more support in unlocking some of the poem. And I just talk the students through this. So in his dark room, he's finally alone with spools of suffering set out in ordered rows. The only light is red and softly glows, as though this were a church, and he a priest preparing to intone a mass. Belfast, Beirut, Phnom Penh, all flesh is grass. So let's look at the opening. So he talks about a dark room. Could anybody tell me, either through the microphone or through their chat, what do we mean by dark room? What is a dark room? So yeah, that's right. It's where he develops photos. But what else could it be? Could it reflect his mental state? Could this be a metaphor for what's going on? How about ordered rows and the spools of suffering? Why could that be comforting? Why might that be disturbing? So again, this vocabulary is foregrounded for SEND and AL leaders, really key to show them how to access the text, just to give them that key to unlock it. Reduces a lot of cognitive load for these students and just supports them with learning a bit more focused vocabulary. This repetition and this pairing of words just helps these students to have a deeper retention. Depending on the students, I may have done a gradual reveal of the vocabulary. I would get to know that as I got to know the students a bit better. Then I would move on. Okay, so then we've gone through all of that, and then we use some annotations, possibly on the whiteboard or through the chat, to move on to the I do part of the lesson. So this explicit instruction and demonstration just helps clarify misconceptions before they arise, and so I can show them how to pick out key quotations and how to talk about the repetition of the S, which sounds like soft hissing, silence, sadness. And we would just do this step by step, talking about things like, why is he finally alone? Why is that important? Clearing up that misconception, and like that is important. It's to show the calm and the contrast, perhaps too calm. And then thinking about what the spools are, some of the suffering. So looking at, going through these. Then moving on, why does Dick Duffy use religious language? The students might ask. Is it his church? Is Duffy religious? No, she isn't. So there's another misconception to clear up. It's just to elevate the photographer's task and to talk about how solemn and how much emotional weight this is carrying. The religious metaphor is there just to show how religious and respectful they are. So with the class, we would whiteboard this together. We'd pick out some of the words. Hopefully they'd tell me. Pick out church, pick out priest, pick out mass. And just going through this why we do in the hope that I can move to something more independent in a minute. Doing as many we do's as we need to do. Again, we've already had that vocab from earlier, but just to make sure that that can be there as a side bank, that can be there on the side for students to refer back to. And then hopefully having a go for themselves. So I'd hope that they could pick out the sibilants here. They could pick out the word tremble. They could pick out the slop in trays, that verb choice and how that makes it. So and then independent practice, give them 3 or 4 minutes to annotate around that, and then show those to me. Finally, the plenary. Okay, so sometimes the lines in Caroline Duffy's poem feel like they could be written under a real photo, perhaps because of this journalistic influence she's had, looking at the wall photographs. So pick one line that does that, and I just want you to think about what that photo shows. So one line, for example, 100 agonies in black and white. That feels like it could be a caption under an actual photo. And the reason for that is because it sounds really factual. It makes me imagine photos of people suffering, like I can see 100 agonies, but printed in a paper where it looks simple. So I'd just like to give you 3 minutes now to have a think about which lines you would choose and why. Again, this is just a review of the lesson. That I, we, you really works, that scaffolding for how students aren't thrown about guidance. The feedback is tailored to how they just need it, and it just gives them that independence that they've built up to in this last one before the review. So if students are struggling with this, I might give them another line. Running children in a nightmare heat. And then I might just have those sentence starters as well. So in a full lesson, I'd build on this with some discussion, some analysis, and maybe look at more on structure and how Duffy's also using that to shape meaning, reflect a lot more on why the poem still feels relevant today. So thank you very much for watching this lesson overview. War Photographer encourages students to think about conflict, emotional detachment, and the power of images. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.